MLM Nation, episode 87.
Go for no. Don't be afraid of rejection. When we get rid of the fear of rejection, we'll see how easy it is to attract people to us, to what we do.
If you want to be successful, you just have to copy what MLM leaders do. Welcome to MLM Nation, presented by your host, Simon Chad, where you'll learn strategies, secrets, and inspiring stories from today's top MLM income earners.
MLM Nation, this is Simon Chen, and I'm fired up to bring our special guest today, Jeff Altgilbers. Jeff, are you ready to make it happen?
Sure. Why not?
Jeff Altgilbers has almost 40 years of MLM experience. He had little success when he got started, but today he's an MLM superstar. His organization extends to over 54 countries, and his team generates over $18 million in sales a month. He has a super incredible story. Jeff will share his turning point and when he decided to take network marketing seriously. You see, he had a great 10-year run in MLM, and then suddenly one day, his company went bankrupt. And that's when Jeff realized he had a false sense of security, and his personal finances were actually a disaster. He found himself dead broke. However, Jeff didn't give up on the MLM profession and stuck with it. And after he researched and found a good company, Jeff had to sell a used, beat-up junk truck just to get the funds to get started. It was a really difficult journey, but within 18 months, Jeff was earning enough to move into his dream home. Of all the things he's accomplished, Jeff is most proud. And MLM Nation, this is super incredible. Jeff has over 100 of his downline leaders earn more than $1 million in network marketing. So Jeff, I've given MLM Nation just a brief intro, but please share more about your background and how you came across network marketing.
Well, my background is my education level only goes to high school. All my siblings, my two brothers, my sister, were all university graduates, and I was considered the black sheep of the family by my father. I was very much into music, playing with bands. I'm a drummer. I'm a songwriter. Matter of fact, on iTunes, I have 3 CDs under the artist name of J Blue, the letter J Blue. But that's always been my passion. But back then, it just never made sense to me. Most of the education system, they don't teach you how to get wealthy. They teach you how to get a job. And I just didn't like it. Now, I didn't know why I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. To me, I was very disillusioned when I was in high school. And I thought, what do you do with most of this education they give you? I'm not going to use this. And so I just wasn't really sure what to do. But what I did do was I started listening to, it was a company back then called Nightingale and Conant. I don't know if you remember that, Earl Nightingale.
Definitely.
I remember listening to his audio cassettes, and I didn't know why. I mean, I just liked it. I just liked what I was hearing. The idea of dreaming big and finding your dream and what you have to do it. The stories, everything. It appealed to me. At that time, I had a cleaning business. My wife used to ridicule me. That was my wife then. But she used to ridicule me and say, why are you listening to that? What good is that going to do to help you clean better? And I said, I don't know. It just makes me feel better. And that's what I did. I would just listen to those programs. And so I remember a man back in 1978 saying to me, he said, hey, I've got an opportunity I want to show you. And we didn't call it network marketing back then because the internet wasn't alive. We called it multi-level marketing. And so in 1978, I signed up and became a distributor. And then I asked him, I said, what do you do? He said, you go out and you sell this. And I said, but it tastes terrible. He said, you put the aloe vera juice in like orange juice or something else, and it'll taste better. but it's healthy. It's healthy. People will like it. I said, all right, fine. And then that's what I did back then. You know, we made deliveries like Domino's Pizza. So, and that was the only thing I understood about multi-level at the time. I didn't understand the concept of really building an organization, but it was a start. It was a start. But that was back in 1978. And then finally, you know, what I've realized in my journey is that as technology changes the world, that changes how we do network marketing. So we always need to ask ourselves the question, how do we do network marketing today? How I did it back in 1978 will not work today. How I did it in the 1980s or the 1990s will not work today. So it's constantly evolving. And to be a 21st century professional network marketer today, you've got to stay on top of your game. But back then, again, I didn't understand it. Eventually, I started understanding when I got involved in another company. I remember I was trained to how to do meetings, how to do presentations in front of groups of people, and then how to build an organization. And so, again, that was more of still a direct sales company. And then finally, I started evolving into later on more consumable products. And that's when I think that was the turning point. You know, they used to joke back then, say lotion, potions, and pills, you know, like as if they're knocking companies that have those products. But the truth of the matter is, when you look at all the leading companies, that's just what they are. And I knew that. But that was the turning point back then. And so I can remember at that time, my business, I had like 40 employees, and I had two major accounts that decided to save money. So they let my services go. So after 10 years, all that was gone. And for the first time, I didn't have any income coming in. The thing is, up to that point, I had always treated network marketing or multi-level marketing, as we called it back then, you know, just as a hobby. It was just something I liked to do. I was listening to the Nightingale Conant recordings. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was a hobby, but it was not my profession. So the commitment level wasn't there. Now, when I lost my business, then I started thinking seriously about my life. And then I thought, how in the world will I ever get back on top? My credit is ruined. I can't even get money right now to start another business. And I don't want to do the one I was in. And I didn't want employees. So here I come from, like I said, in high school, I just didn't like the concept of getting an education, get a job. Why not employ yourself? And then now I was at that point in my life where I was like, I don't like employing myself this way. I don't want to be dependent on clients that can just say goodbye. And so, and at the same time, I got tired of firing people and having to get up out of bed at 2, 3 in the morning because somebody didn't show up. So I started thinking about it. How will I ever get up back on top? I can't get any money to start a business. And then I started thinking, what am I doing? What have I learned over these years? I've treated multi-level marketing, MLM, as a hobby. But yet I've seen people earn $50,000 plus, more than that, a month. Personal friends of mine. And I thought, I have got to find a company that will deliver exactly what I want. And then I've got to totally commit to this. So I went in search for a company. And finally, when I found the right one at that time, and that was David Lisenby out of Salt Lake City, Utah. But at that time, I can tell you that once I found the products that I felt very passionate about promoting, I didn't have any money to get started. And so I didn't even have money for a distributor kit. And then back then, I think there were $30. And Matter of fact, I wrote a check for it, and I thought, well, I just hope I can get the money in the bank to cover it. Surely they won't come and repossess my distributor kit. But and so the thing finally, what happened with me? I sat on my porch one day, and I said, what am I going to do? How am I going to get started? And I just started thinking negatively. I started thinking, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke. And finally I heard this voice just shout out of my mind, shut up! We know you're broke, so let's do something about it. And then I looked out and I saw the only thing that was left from my bankrupt company was a junk truck. The tire was flat, the motor didn't start. I kept the window rolled down for the neighborhood cat. So I tried to show God I'm trying to contribute something in life. And I said, that's it. I will sell that truck to the junkyard. So I called a man, he came out. He says, I'll give you $400. I said, take it. And so I took that $400 and I bought $200 for groceries because I didn't have any food. And then I had $200 now to get started with products. My sponsor knew I couldn't afford a phone bill, so he sent me a cell phone. I didn't get good reception where I was, so I would drive up in the hills of Tennessee in the farm country. I remember opening a pasture gate, a cattle gate, and I drove my SUV in there, closed the gate so the cows couldn't get out, put the notes on the hood, and I started making phone calls and making appointments, calling people and setting meetings up and to meet with them. And then, of course, the hygiene wasn't really great in that office. I had to watch where I walk when I talked. And then, of course, then there was the sound of the animals. It was funny. But I remember I was behind on my payment to the bank for that SUV, 3 months behind. I had not paid my utilities. I remember one day I got a knock at the door and a man said, sir, I'm here to turn off your electricity if you don't give me a check. And I said, oh yeah, sure, right. I tell you what, come out to my truck and I'll write you a check. My checkbook's in the truck. So we went out to my driveway and I looked and my truck was gone. The bank had come got it that morning.
Wow.
And I looked at the man. I said, where's my truck? Where's my truck? I mean, it was here last night. And he looked at me and said, sir, you look like a man with problems. And he cut off my electricity. And then there's an old man, Wally Wagner. He was in his 80s. He would follow me wherever I go, whatever company it is. He's an old engineer, retired engineer. And he just felt sorry for me. He gave me a car that looked like it had been in his family 4 generations. There was a little paint left on it, but it was something I could, drive. Of course, when I went out and promoted opportunity and success, I sort of parked it far from the eye. But I remember at that time, one day I came home, and it was a weekend, and I had 100 messages on my answering machine. And it was all my creditors wanting their money and all that. And a friend of mine said, wow, 100 messages, what will you do? And I said, I'll show you. And I walked up and I unplugged the machine, plugged it back in. I said, wow, look at that. Went back to 0. I mean, it was just one of those things that if you don't develop a sense of humor, you're going to have to find a bridge. But I remember I was, again, it was very hard, very hard. I remember I had to do a meeting in Cincinnati, Ohio. At the time, I was living in Huntsville, Alabama. And so I decided to have the oil changed on the car before I went. And what happened was, after the man changed oil, he forgot to put the plug back.
Oh.
And so when I was driving down the interstate, I started thinking all these great things, these positive things. And because at that time I was listening to Anthony Robbins, Personal Power, I was listening to, just listening to it, the audio, and I was pumped up. I mean, every day I would listen to it and take notes. You know, the past doesn't equal the future. You can't live your life, you know, looking at the rear view mirror. You got to look out the windshield. You got to see your future. You know, I loved his message. It was so awesome. And so I remember driving on the interstate, and when I was getting on the other side of Nashville, Tennessee, I started thinking, you know, things are turning around. Things are getting good. I mean, my dream is, I can see it now. It's starting to happen now. My team's starting to grow. And then in the meantime, I hear boom, boom, bang, bang, and that's the engine. And I'm off on the side of the road on the interstate with a dead car. And I jump out and I start thumbing, you know, trying to get a ride. A trucker picked me up. He dropped me off at the next exit. And all I could think about was, I got to get to Cincinnati. And then I called my father and I said, Dad, I need some help. The guy who changed my oil, he didn't put the plug back. My car's dead. What am I going to do? I got to do a meeting tonight. And he said, I can remember what he said. He said, son, I think it's about time you get a job.
Mm.
And he was a plant manager. He ran a factory. He came from, you know, traditional American thinking. Again, you get an education, you get a good job, and you put 40 years in it, and hopefully you have enough health to enjoy what's left. But anyway, he helped me out. And I did make Cincinnati, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy those days. It was very, very difficult, very challenging. I can remember, though, on Sundays, I would go to what I call Dream Street. And that was a beautiful, was where all the rich people live, where they had the old plantation homes, pre-Civil War, you know, and just beautiful neighborhoods. And I would just park the car and just go for walks. And then I would walk down these beautiful, beautiful neighborhoods and just think to myself, I'd say, wow, look at that house. That's the way my house is going to be. Yep, it's going to look just like that. And that manicured lawn, it's going to be just like that. And those perennial gardens, those rose gardens, heck, I'm even going to have a gardener. And those cars, BMW, Mercedes, yep, I'm going to have that too. It's all going to come together. And the truth was, I didn't have much money at all at that time. And if the people knew what I was thinking, they probably would have had called the police and had me hauled off. But the interesting thing is that within 18 months, I was moving into one of those houses in 18 months.
That is really incredible, really inspiring.
Yeah, and I tell people, you know, I don't say that to impress you, but to impress upon you what you can do. As Tony Robbins always said, if you live your life with passion, with the power of belief, and you really believe very strongly, because people buy you before they buy your opportunity. They buy you before they buy your product. And if you are the kind of leader, and people are looking for leaders, people are looking for guidance, people are looking for the right kind of mentors to guide them, to give them some direction. And if they will follow you, if your heart burns enough, they will follow you just out of curiosity. And that's leadership. And that was something that Tony really, he just put that right in my soul. And I think that was the turning point for my success. And so I never looked back. And even today, sometimes I'll have dreams and I'll be doing a floor in a grocery store. Because I can remember when I was getting my network marketing business going, I would part-time at nighttime. Sometimes I would go out and work in a grocery store. You'd see me mopping a floor. You know, and if you went down there and you told me, Jeff, one day you're going to have an organization that's in 54 countries. You're going to be doing 18 million a month. You're going to travel the world. You're going to eventually meet a woman in Taiwan, and you're going to marry her, and you're going to have a son through her, and you're going to adopt her son. You know, I would look at you and say, you know what? There's a place for people like you. There's drug therapy. You can get help. I mean, that's what, I mean, because it was such an amazing turning point in my life, to experience that, to go from broke, to go from nothing. I tell people when they say, oh, I don't have the money to get started, I said, so what is the problem? What's the problem? Because I sold a junk truck to get started. I didn't have money. I built a multi-million-dollar business, became a multi-millionaire from a junk truck that I sold, and I started my business with $200. This is not about money. This is about your commitment to your dreams, your passion. And if you can't do it for you, look in the eyes of your children. And if you can't do it for them, well, then I don't need to be talking to you. But I mean, that's how I feel about it.
But you just shared such an inspiring story. And I guess, what was the self-talk? I mean, 99% of the people have just quit, right? I've gone through what you had it and you lost it and you were
Right.
down or at the bottom. So what was how did you stay motivated? Was it all those Nightingale, Conant, audios you listened to that programmed you, that kept you going? Like, what was the self-talk that was going behind you?
Well, in the late 70s, like I said, I was listening to Earl, Nightingale, and Conant. And Earl back then, he had a baritone voice, but he was very inspiring to me. We're all programmed. We all are from the time of our youth. Don't talk to strangers. Your parents might have told you that. Well, we're in network marketing. I mean, you have to get out of that that self-defeating thinking, because you're going to have to talk to strangers, or money is the root of all evil. Well, that's not correct. It's the love of money, if you read better translations. So there's a lot of programming that we have. And again, the programming that we have to get an education and go get a job. I teach my children differently. I teach them you need to be an entrepreneur. Now, you don't have to be involved in network marketing like your father. You don't. You be you. Whoever you are, be you. But understand this, you don't have to get a job, and you don't have to depend on another individual for your financial freedom. But it took a transition, because we all go through downtimes. And I can remember that some of the companies that I had been in, they were badly ran companies. Either the management didn't have the experience, or the product wasn't strong enough, or the compensation plan was too unproven at the time. There seemed to be something. So it was always crash, burn, rebuild, crash, burn, rebuild. But I can remember before I became or experienced the success I did, I can remember times I was thinking, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm just not, I don't have the personality for it. I'm not a presenter. I'm not a speaker. Maybe it's just not going to work out for me. I can remember thinking that. But there was that other side to me that said, no, you got to make this work. You got to develop. You got to become what you think you cannot become. You got to learn from people who did it. And I believe that, because I remember early in those days that I did have a belief that if you learn from successful people and you do what they do, you will get what they get. All you have to do is master what they do. So it makes sense to me, because if you want to learn pro baseball, you don't go to people that are always striking out. You go to people that can hit home runs. Now, they don't always hit home runs. Matter of fact, they strike out most of the time, but at least they hit some home runs. They're good at what they do. They're on their game. And so that was, and so what I did was, when I started listening to Anthony Robbins, I started deprogramming my thinking, and whatever image I saw of myself as a person who, my company failed, I was broke. Like I said, when I was sitting on that porch and I was thinking, I'm broke, I had to smash that image. And then I had to start seeing myself as an achiever. And so I just programmed my mind with things that Anthony taught at the time, And it worked. It really worked. I started taking a more positive outlook. You know, it sort of reminds me of the boy, you might have heard this about the boy that he took a bat and a ball, and he says, I'm the greatest hitter in baseball. And he throw the ball up and swing at the ball, and he missed. He did that a second time, a third time, he missed. And he smiled and said, wow, I'm the greatest pitcher in baseball.
Wow, I like that.
I love that analogy. And that was sort of like me. That was my transition. I started seeing myself differently. And, you know, and of course, now you've got some other questions that you messaged me. And I don't mean to.
Yeah, no worries. It's been awesome sharing. I actually want to ask you something. Like you said, during your worst point, that's when you start taking network marketing seriously. You made it more of a commitment. Before it was a hobby. Like, give me an example of like what extra commitment. How did you really treat it like a profession? What was the difference?
Well, one thing is I had the time to dedicate to it because I didn't have anything to distract me. That helped. But the other thing is I started, again, listening and being mentored by Anthony Robbins, and I had some others too. You know, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, you know, that's the Bible of relationships. To understand people, I needed to become a people person. That was very important. And then the importance of getting out and getting on the road. I can remember I would set up appointments. I started doing meetings, and I had I don't know if you remember that car that the Chrysler I had back then called Horizon. It looked like a small little.
That's a long time ago.
Oh, it was a long time ago. It was such a tiny little car. It had a big back window, and so I always put the compensation plan there. It covered the whole entire back window. I went down the interstate. Everybody was reading the compensation plan. And so, matter of fact, when I got to Canada, and I was going through immigration there, or whatever they call that, border, the man looked at the back of my car and says, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, that's a compensation plan." He said, "Pull over." He says, "You get that and get your things, and I want you to come in here." And then so I went in to into his office, and he says, "I want you to explain that." And I said, "You want me to explain this?" I said, "Okay." So I set up the compensation plan. I said, "Here's where you start. You come in at the bottom here." And then I started explaining, and then I explained how you get to the very top. And I said, "And when you get to the very top, this is the kind of income you can be looking at." I said, "Now, are you ready to sign up and get started?" And he looked at me and said, "You can go. Go on, get out of here."
That's awesome.
But I stayed on the road. I remember I stayed on the road for a whole month. Getting back to your question, what did I do different? I set up meetings, and I had my those leaders set up meetings with other friends. So I went from state to state. I spent a lot of time in the state of Maine, and that was just a beautiful state along the coast there. And I was doing meetings in homes, trailers, churches, schools. I would drive up into Canada, got to Montreal, couldn't read any of the signs. I called the leader on the phone. I said, "Just give me the exit number or something. I can't read any of these signs. It's all French." I remember doing a meeting there, then driving down in the Nova Scotia on over into Prince Edward Island. It was just a beautiful experience. I got to meet a lot of wonderful people and just see that kind of country. It's just wonderful. Those were great memories. I'll never forget it. Never forget it. It was such a great experience. But I think the other thing too is one thing I honed in on, and that is developing the people in my team. I'm a big believer in that you have to work through your leaders to find your leaders. And the people that you're presently working with may not be the people that you'll be working with later. Whoever you start with may not be the people you finish with. Finish in the sense that you finally have reached a point of a success that you've always wanted to reach. So working through my leaders was probably one of my biggest strengths, and probably one of the best kept secrets in this industry. Most people will fail to do that.
Yeah. I love talking to people like you who have so much experience in your stories. And I think you brought up a really good point. It's just like technology changes the world and technology changes network marketing.
Yes.
And I wanted you to go back and clarify something. You said at one point you had employees. Was that part of your network marketing business? You had employees, or was that a separate business?
That was my cleaning business.
I see. So you still had your cleaning. So you did it part-time for a long time. And then basically the cleaning business went out and your network marketing business went out at the same time.
Well, what happened? Well, I was in a company at the same time when I lost my cleaning business, but again, I didn't take it seriously. It was a hobby. I liked doing presentations, and I was learning. I enjoyed it, and I had money coming in from it, but I wasn't taking it seriously. It wasn't my profession, so it was a hobby. But when I lost that business, I said, no. Now you're ready. You need to get serious. Of course, I was in a different company back then, and then I realized I needed to find a company that had highly consumable products. And so that's when I went in search, and that's when that journey began.
I see. Now, you've had almost 4 decades of experience. What's the one thing, and you've seen so many changes, what's the one thing that excites you most about network marketing now?
What excites me is it's easier now than it ever was. I mean, think about it. Back in when I got started, we didn't have the World Wide Web. We didn't have cell phones. Distribution was a real issue. Like UPS, FedEx, forget it. I mean, so that we had to inventory products. It was very much a direct sales business back then, not so much of building a network. I always say sell the franchise, not the burger. I go back to the McDonald's story, and that's where the money was. And I always, I changed my thinking from, going from selling the product to you sell the business, you sell the franchise. Then you're going to sell a lot of products if you do that. And so it was just a change of thinking. But back then, it was so different. But again, things changed. Eventually, I remember getting my first cell phone. It was like a walkie-talkie. I mean, I would sit it on a table at a restaurant, and I would just smile and say, "Yep, that's mine." I could talk to the leaders on a cell phone. That was a big change because I usually had to go use a payphone booth, or I had to go home to make phone calls. And that was a big change. Then we had fax machines. We didn't have to mail in applications anymore. We can fax them in. I remember when I went into my final company that I've been with 17 years, I remember that when I got started, the first 90 days, we put in over 800 people. Again, technology was changing because now, instead of going out doing presentations, we were doing conference calls. Instead of mailing applications, we were faxing them in. And then we had what we call hotlines, information hotline. Maybe it's about in this case, it was about our product. And so it was really simple. I give someone the hotline, I do an immediate follow-up with that person, and then I would say, okay, how do you see yourself? Using the product, or can you use extra money? I didn't ask them if they wanted to join or if they wanted to buy. I only gave them a choice. You see yourself using the product, or can you use extra money? Generally, they always said, use extra money. And I taught my leaders to do the same. We kept it very simple. We didn't complicate the process. And in not complicating the process, we put in 800 people, and that got us off to some fast momentum. I always believe that the principles never change, just the tools. The principles never change, just the tools. Because today I would never do it the way I did it back then, because it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Why? Because technology has changed society. That has changed how we do network marketing. Baby boomers have a struggle with that. I'm talking about baby boomers who have been in network marketing. I'm a baby boomer, okay? So, and I look at a lot of my peers, people that I've been with in this industry, they have not made the transition over. Even in my company, I look at some of the leaders that are not in my line, but they're in other lines. Even my upline, they have not made the transition. And what happens is then they flounder. They don't know where to go with this. Now, then, of course, what people do at that point, they try to stay busy. Doing this, what we say is a definition of insanity. Remember that, Simon?
Yeah, doing the same thing over and over again.
And what?
Expecting things to be different.
That's right. And we say that, and they say that, but then that's exactly what they do. So they want to try to do the way we did network marketing 20 years ago. It doesn't work. And this is why this is important, because you have Generation Y, you have these young people. That's going to be our future residual income. It's not going to come from the baby boomers. They're going to die off. They're going to die off. So that means you've got to be able to have a system that a Generation Y can understand, or Generation X. They're a little older, but that they can understand and that they can relate to. And I tell my leaders, I said, it's not that they don't want to join you. It's not that they don't want to come to your, well, they don't want to come to your meetings in many cases, because they don't have the time. Time is not the way it is. 20 years ago, we had more time. Today, we don't. People are very possessive of time. Also, the way we receive information, the way we communicate has changed. I tell anybody, go to Starbucks, go to anywhere, any restaurant. What are people doing? You didn't see them doing this a few years ago, but what are they doing now? Everybody's looking at their smartphones. If you can't get your system or your presentation to that phone in an effective way, you're out. You're not going to be in this business. You're going to wonder why your business isn't growing, why you're not making money, why people aren't, like I said, the other leaders I was talking about, why they're not coming to your meetings. There's a reason why they're not coming to your meetings. They don't want to come to your meeting. They don't want to do. They like getting together. I'm not saying that people are anti-relational. They're not. They like to get together maybe at a ball field, on a beach, somewhere, having fun, but at the same time, they do want to make money. So you got to bring it together. And then we have to understand how that generation thinks. And then so I focused a lot of my time when I was overseas for about 6 years. I lived out of my suitcase, and I worked 10 different Asian countries. And I made Guam, the island of Guam, my base. And that was it. I said, you know what? I'm not gonna. You asked me earlier, and I guess I could have thrown this in about what changed. I was highly committed, and I was also highly committed to getting this done. Getting this done means 5 years. You bust it, and then that's it. You'll create so much momentum out of that. It'll last you the rest of your life, and that's exactly what I did. And so I lived out of a suitcase going around, and my leaders would call me and say, hey, will you meet with somebody in the Philippines? Will you meet with somebody in Singapore? Will you meet with somebody in Seoul, Korea? And I said, absolutely, use me, abuse me. I don't care. Let's do it. Yeah, sure, they weren't going, but I was going for it. But still, I was a benefactor. And so what happened was, after doing that, when I came back to the United States, I started looking at the way a lot of leaders were doing network marketing. And I shook my head. I said, they're still doing that here? They're still doing that. Traditional MLM. Okay, we'll see how far that gets you. And then I started seeking out people who are in the know. And I'm talking about people that I don't have a lot of expertise in certain areas. And I know that. So I would seek out people who do. And I'd say, what kind of systems are doing well today? What are they doing? What kind of tools would you use? What about, I've seen a lot of people in the past and other companies, they want to get rich off books and things like that. I'm not critical of that, but I see a couple of problems with it. and that is it just creates slow growth. And well, the other thing is I just don't want to do it that way. So I believe in that you must have a back office for your team. You must have an ebook, and if you are the leader, then you should know how to write that book. And that's what I did. When I came back from being overseas, gone 6 years, I said, I'm going to write a 10-step ebook on how you do this business. I highly illustrated it, all the pages, everything. It's free. What's great about that is if I recruit, or somebody in my organization recruits somebody out of Mumbai, India, or Calcutta, India, or out in London, England, they can instantly be enrolled in the system, go right to their back office, set up their website, that's free, their lead capture page that we design so that they can, what we used to call cold marketing. Now we call it, I guess, just networking with people. And then you have the tools in the back, the education system, the audio library, the video library, where they get their training. You have the ebook back there where they know exactly what they do. I also have a quick guide to success, and that's just bullets, what you need to do to hit the ground running. The idea is to get that person ready within a few days, and then teaching them how to send out a link to somebody, either message it out, email it out, and do the 30-minute follow-up call. Again, principles never change, just the tools. We create speed. We create momentum. And that's what I told people, I asked some of the leaders before I started getting really passionate about having online systems and tools. I'd say, when you bring a leader in, or rather when you enroll somebody, how long does it take before that person actually becomes a leader? A leader in the sense that what we understand that to be. Somebody who's producing, growing a team, things like that. And the answer was anywhere to 1 to 2 years. And I said, 1 to 2 years? You don't have 1 to 2 years. What are you talking about? But that's the reality of it with a lot of companies. And I'm like, no, not 1 to 2 months, okay. And that's the problem with it. So we got to move people along. And again, if we're going to pass the torch to the next generation that we're going to get our residual income from, we better make sure that we have tools that they can get excited about, that they like, that they can relate to. That's so important if they're going to, join us, get passionate about it. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me from Europe, from South America, of course, North America, different parts of the world. And they'd say, hey, we hear that, you have these tools, you have the system, because we're trying, the way we've been taught, but it's not working. People don't want to do it this way. And I would laugh and say, well, listen, I understand. I do. So don't worry about it. And I never critical of somebody doing it the old way. That's fine. And sometimes we have to do it that way. For example, when I go to the Philippines, believe me, we're going to be doing traditional network marketing. And that's true in some other countries where people are not as online. But for societies, affluent societies that are online, people that are online every day, they're constantly connected. Those people, the way they do business, the way they think, the way they receive information and want to give out information, it's totally different. And our system has to address that. And it's good. Thank God for it. Thank God.
Jeff, you mentioned the ebook that you read. Is that available to the public?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I'll probably do that later. I've been thinking about that.
Oh, I think you have a wealth of knowledge. You'll be a bestseller. I mean, the stuff that you shared is incredible.
Well, it comes from a lot of frustration. One thing that bothers me, Simon, nothing bothers me more than to hear a leader say, I'm trying it, but it's not working. Now, that bothers me when I start hearing that, because I start thinking, not working. Well, it worked for me. It's working for some of my other team. So then, so one thing I tell people, I said, listen, it's like any product. I don't care what you promote, whatever you're passionate about. Having that product, let's say if it's a health product, okay? Having that product doesn't make you healthy. Using that product makes you healthy. Having a system does not make you successful. Using the system makes you successful. So again, understand that people have changed, society has changed. We have to transition from old traditional network marketing to how we do it today as a 21st century professional, and then understand that once you have that system, you have to follow that system. There's no magic to it. Just having it doesn't make you successful. I stress that with all my leaders. And one I just talked to the other day, she's had it for months, and now she's finally reading the ebook. I laughed at her. I said, okay, when do you want to get on with your life? Come on, read the book. Come on, it's not that hard. Just do it. And the book's not that long either. Believe me, it's not that long.
Hey, Jeff, you've been awesome, but we got to, you've been so awesome. Thank you for your valuable time. We got to kind of end the show, but some really quick questions, and you can just give one word answer, a couple word answers. You can make them really short, okay? We just want to pick your brain a little bit. So what's one of your favorite success quotes that's motivated you?
By Napoleon Bonaparte. Success is not final.
I love that. What is one habit that's helped you become successful?
Communicating.
Okay.
Communicating with my leaders.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Go for no. Don't be afraid of rejection. I was told by my sponsor, go out for 100 no's, Jeff. When you do that, by the time you get to the last one, you'll be a very rich man. So when someone would tell me no, I'd smile and I'd say, thank you. And then they would say, what? And the funny thing is, then in most cases, they want to know more about what I'm doing. When we get rid of the fear of rejection, we'll see how easy it is to attract people to us, to what we do.
What's your favorite prospecting tool you use? So I know you mentioned systems. If someone's interested right now, today, what do? Do you send them an online video? Do you send them a webinar?
I have a 10-minute presentation that talks about the industry, talks about network marketing, and then our system, what we use, and then how you can become very successful. We do it all in 10 minutes. So I can message the link, email the link. That's what I teach all my leaders to do. You do not have to use a model where you prospect and where you have to meet with somebody to prospect and sponsor. That's ridiculous. We should be able to do this from our homes, in our pajamas. It's just that simple. Email or message the link, do the 30-minute follow-up, and be in front of your computer and enroll them. Hopefully the company that you're with makes it that easy where you can just enroll them online.
What's one of your favorite apps, or do you have an online resource like a Dropbox, Evernote that you could recommend to our listeners?
No, I don't. I'm not as, I need to get a little better, I guess, in that area, but I really don't have a favorite app.
No problem. What's one book you could recommend to MLM Nation?
Oh, there's so many good ones, aren't there? I guess I'll say, to thank Anthony Robbins, I'd say Personal Power.
Awesome. At MLM Nation, and I know you love audio, so you can, if you haven't already, you can get an amazing free audiobook at MLMNationBook.com. That is MLMNationBook.com.
Got it.
Jeff, here's the last question, the $1 million question. You ready?
Go for it.
Before we go to the $1 million question, MLM Nation, I know you want to grow your business, and I know you want to earn more income. So that's why I want to share with you something that will instantly help your business and increase your income. You already know the importance of sponsoring. And if you can't sponsor, the fact is you simply won't earn any real income in network marketing. Sponsoring is so important, and that's why I'm inviting you to a free training that will change your business forever. I want you to check out my free sponsoring workshop webinar, where you're going to learn how to invite more prospects, overcome the objections, and sponsor more distributors. You can register for this free training at www.sponsoringworkshop.com. Again, that's sponsoringworkshop.com. If you like these podcasts from MLM Nation and these trainings, you'll find this free webinar even more helpful. This is the training that helped me earn over $1 million in MLM and giving me the residual income so I can be a stay-at-home dad with my kids and also have the time to give back and produce these MLM Nation podcast episodes for you. This is the training, the skills that help me become successful in network marketing, and you're going to learn this at this free sponsoring workshop webinar. So here's some of the things you'll learn and get. You're going to get the first step you must take before you even talk to your contact list. You're going to discover the 3 types of prospects and how you must talk to them differently. Okay, not all prospects are the same. They're different. You also get my proven cold market scripts that will help you convert strangers into prospects. These are the things that help me. I mean, I didn't sponsor 200 people in a year, but I sponsored over 80-something people in 1 year. How would your business grow if you sponsored 80 people in a year? You also learn how to get prospects to overcome the objections. So listen to your presentations. You know, an MLM objection, how to, I don't have any money. So you're going to discover, you'll learn all those things. And also, the best part is you get my famous 6-figure close. So you can sign up prospects. And this is the same script. Why it's a 6-figure close? Because I used it to sign up one of my party friends. This guy was a party animal. And I used that 6-figure close. And he joined, and now he's a diamond director and earns me a 6-figure passive income just from one person. And so you'll get the same 6-figure close on this free webinar. So anyway, enough of what you learned. What you really need to do now is register right now or write this website down. It's at www.sponsoringworkshop.com. Okay, sponsoringworkshop.com. This free webinar is offered 3 different days. That's the cool part. This is 3 different days at 4 different times. So that anyone around the world, because I know MLM Nation, you guys are global, you can listen to it. And even better, if you don't have the patience, you want it immediately, there's an option. If you go to sponsoringworkshop.com, there's an option to watch it now immediately. So you can watch it right now and learn. So start learning the skills that help me build $1 million MLM business and go to sponsoringworkshop.com. So look forward to seeing the training. So now you know about something that's going to help you. I have to share that with you. Let's go back to the show and to the $1 million question. The $1 million question. Imagine you had to start all over again. You had all your almost 40 years of knowledge, skills, and wisdom, but you knew no one. So you had no contacts. You didn't know of a friend, no one on your phone, no Facebook friends. So what would be the first thing you would do to find prospects and build an MLM business from scratch?
You would certainly have to meet people online. Again, if I didn't know anybody, then I would definitely master the web. One thing that's important, again, it comes down to leadership. They buy you before they buy your opportunity. So you have to brand yourself. It's very important to brand yourself. Spend some time. Put a nice presentation about yourself. Make sure you have a YouTube channel. Make sure you have a very good website about your leadership, about your company, whatever that company is. And if you have the resources to create a system, you show them that you're a professional and you have all that in place. And that's what I would do today. And now we used to, years ago, if you'd asked me that same question 30 years ago, I'd say, Simon, you can put me in a parachute, drop me off anywhere you want. Wherever I land, I will build my way all the way back home. I would go into a restaurant where they got those fish bowls where everybody put their cards, and I walk in and say, hey, I'll pay for the meal. Give me the cards. And I'll start making phone calls, and I'll start meeting people. But today, again, principles don't change. The tools do. So today I would do it on the web.
As we wrap up, do you have any last words of advice? And then what's the best way our listeners can connect and contact you?
Well, they can message me through Facebook. They can go to my website, which is www.go2, that's the number 2, go2platinum.com.
Awesome. And any last words or advice?
Probably the advice I would give anybody that's maybe been in a company, well, don't compare yourself to other people. Do not do that. You'll be discouraged, and it's never motivating when you do that. Compare yourself to yourself. Look at how much you've changed. The books that you're reading, I went through that process, how your thinking is changing. So much has changed about you. You need to appreciate that. A lot of times we don't. We really don't. We can be very hard on ourselves. We need to learn how to love ourselves and be kind to ourselves. Now, not too kind. In other words, we got to have a certain amount of discipline where we make those calls, we make those appointments, we show that we are absolutely committed, not to just our success, but to our team. It's very important to help your people because that's what it's all about. It's always about your team. So if we do that, and not compare ourselves to others, but compare ourselves to where we were a year ago, where we are now, appreciate that, and then understand that things are going to happen if we stay committed to our dreams. But we have to watch what we think, and we have to watch what we're being influenced by. Make sure you have the right friends around you that are going to encourage you. Don't read the news. You're never going to get any good news out of the news. Most of it's negative out there. It's not very positive. That's not going to help you in your career. It will not. So, make sure that the information you're feeding your mind, your heart, is something good and positive every day. Every day do that.
ML Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And today you've been hanging out with Jeff Altgilbers. So keep up the momentum and go to mlnation.net and type in Jeff at the search bar and the show notes. And all the great nuggets of wisdom, the books that Jeff talked about will be right there. And Jeff's contact info, definitely get in touch with him. He is really, really awesome. Just check out the way he brands himself. In order to be successful in network marketing, you must help others. So, Jeff, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with ML Nation. We're grateful to you, and we appreciate you for having a positive impact on millions of distributors worldwide. Thank you so much, Jeff, and God bless you.
Thank you.
ML Nation, let's do a really quick recap review. That's an awesome show by Jeff Altgilbers. Go make sure you go thank him. Go to mlnation.net, type in Jeff, Jeff, Altgilbers. Actually, you don't even need to spell his last name. Just put in Jeff, will pop right up. Some really big aha moments. I'm going to make this real quick. Number one, the power of self-development, right? Jeff had his traditional business, but the thing that got him going was self-development. He was listening to Nightingale Koenig, and even though his ex-wife that time said, why are you listening to all these, you need to learn how to clean better. You have to make money. But, the key to success, a lot of times the main skill that's going to help you become successful is your mindset. Because you grow your mind, you learn how to think differently, you see things differently, and that's what Jeff did. And ultimately, that led to him discovering network marketing. So I want to emphasize that. I think a lot of distributors, when they approach me, they're asking for help. What's the secret? What should I say? What's this? What's that? If you know all the skills, you know exactly what to say, but you don't have it up there, and which is the second point, the visualization, the belief, the mindset, and your self-talk, what you're saying to yourself, all that stuff, the skills, right? All that stuff is not going to work. And you probably know already what you need to do. Most of you probably know what you need to say. Some of it, there is some skills involved, but it's the mindset and the continuous self-development that's important. And, the saying, 5 years from now, you're determined by the people. Where you're going to be 5 years from now is determined by the books and places, books and audios you listen to, the people you meet, and the places you go to. And as you enrich your mind, you see things differently. And things that used to be like a mystery, things that are problems, all of a sudden you see the solutions. So always invest and grow your mind. Another lesson is, if you think things are bad, oh my gosh, I was listening to Jeff's story. It's incredible what he had gone through. He almost basically lost everything. People were about to repossess his car. The thing, I know things are bad, but we have no excuses. Someone probably had it way worse than you did, right? And that's another thing about leadership. Never criticize, complain, or condemn. Never talk about your problems, because if you talk about your problems, all of a sudden the mindset, you're shifting. You start blaming everything else, right? You start just, complaining, this and that, but the solution's inside. It's like a chess game, or a chess game is like a puzzle, right? You see it, but if you actually stand up and look at the game from another angle, it may look totally different, and the solution could be right there, right? And that's why some people can solve the problem really easily. Some people can't, because a lot of times you're too close to the situation. It's good to take a step back, or it could be a person, someone that your accountability partner can give you the solution, or it could be you're reading a book and you start seeing things differently, or you're listening to ML Nation. All of a sudden, your approach to your problem could be different. So it's really about your perspective and your mind. And so just very inspiring from Jeff. Just make sure you reach out to him, mlnation.net, type in Jeff, and his contact info will be right there. And the third thing is commitment. He grew up, if you actually research a little bit more about Jeff, he's grown a huge business in Asia, And it's commitment. A lot of times people say, you know, actually I have coaching members ask me they want to go to new markets and stuff like that. I'll tell you, if you want to grow out to new markets, you really have to make that commitment. It's really a long-term commitment. And Jeff basically lived there for a couple years. You know, when I built my business out in Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines, I didn't live there, but I basically had an apartment there for 2 years, and I'll go back there for three weeks, go back home for a month and a half, and go back there for another 2-3 weeks, then go back. And actually in Philippines, I went back like 10 times in a span of like a year and a half. If you want to do new markets, that's what you have to do. At the minimum, do what I did. You know, and if you could be like Jeff, go move out there. He lived in Guam for like 4 or 5 years. Go out there, so he could. That was a good base. So he could easily go to Korea. He could easily go to Hong Kong. Go out there and support. And that's the really, if you want to make it big internationally. Like, of course, you can do it internationally, but if you want to make it big, that's the way you have to do it. You really have to make the commitment. And Jeff has made a really short-term commitment, but now he's got everything he wants. So, and the last thing is visualization. Always see yourself where you're going to be. Again, that goes back to the problem. Stop criticizing, complaining about your problems. Visualize. All leaders have vision. And even when he was poor and broke, no money, actually there's this term. He was broke, but he's not poor because his mindset was wealthy. But it's just the current situation, he was broke, but he was wealthy. Right? He had a wealthy mindset, just the situation was broke. He visualized himself living those houses with rose garden, nice lawns, and then, you know, it's the law of attraction. We always act according to our self-image. Whatever image you have of yourself, if you don't think you're a good talker, you don't think you're very motivated, you don't think you can prospect well, then that's what you're going to get. But he always saw himself where he's going to end up. And then it was kind of like a subconscious mind. He learned the skills. He did what it took to get there. So power visualization. You should have a dream board. If you don't have a dream board, go out there and make sure you make one or have it on digital. Mine is on my Evernote. I use that all the time. Every morning, I look at least once. I look at it once in the morning and also a couple of times throughout the day. So make sure you do that. So anyway, awesome episode. If you like these shows, make sure you subscribe and rate and review on iTunes and Stitcher. Subscribe, rate, and review. And also share with your friends. That's the best compliment this business about giving. Share with your upline, downline, cross lines. If you have someone who's really down right now, maybe this is the perfect episode to share them. Hey, this is the guy who lost almost everything, but only way he got bounced back was through network marketing. So again, thanks everyone. Thanks Jeff for awesome, very motivating show. And also it reminds us the power of visualization, the power of our mind. And MLM Nation, I thank you for listening. And remember, we're in the profession to help others. So go out there and have a positive impact on someone's life today. God bless you all.
Thank you so much for joining us today on MLM Nation. Head over to MLMNation.net for full recaps of every show, our training articles, and helpful resources. Your MLM success is waiting for you. So prepare to take off.